Reasons and seasons for celebration, Epiphany. We have had enough of troubling surprises. How about an epiphany? Hi, I'm Dr. K.P. McKee, founder and executive director of the Spacious Place Creativity and Spirituality Center. And as we share today's time, we would love to hear from you. If you have any questions or comments, suggestions, would you enter them in your chat box in your mobile device or on your computer? So what is an epiphany? Well, to my mind, an epiphany is a revelation that usually comes after a season of struggle, one that invigorates, deepens, and broadens our souls. And with that in mind, I'd like to share a story. Long ago, some scholars who studied the heavens saw in a star a promise so great that they were willing to leave behind everything they knew, the notoriety that they had achieved in their culture, and journey for months across the desert to an unknown land. They were searching for a newborn king. When they got to the new land, they assumed that the king would be born in a palace, so that is where they went. But what they found in the palace was the residing king was one who had a lust for power, who was a trickster, and who promised them that if they would find this king, he would like to come and pay homage. But his plan was one of treachery. They left the palace and journeyed again following the star until it rested over the place where the child was. Now this must have been a huge surprise after all of these months of travel, because it was a very humble dwelling. Nevertheless, they went in, and with joy, they paid homage to the child, and they gave him their gifts from their culture, things that were to them precious: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. In a dream, they learned that they would endanger the child by returning to the palace to give the reigning king the message, so they returned to their homes another way. And in my mind, I suspect it's very different people. Now, why do I share this story today when we're thinking about Epiphany? Well, it is the story that is now called Epiphany, and what a beautiful name for a story that came after months of struggle and then a surprise about what kind of a king they were going to confront and pay homage to. So let's just think about that for a minute. These people from very diverse cultures were included in this star's promise. They also left behind whatever influence they had because they thought it was a risk taking everything for. And even though they found this child in humble circumstances, they also find the child worthy of their homage. And they gave gifts that were precious to them with no strings attached. And last but certainly not least, they returned home with their souls broadened and deepened and inspired. That is the story of Epiphany. It is what January 6th is about. And in our country, something horrible and atrocious happened on January the 6th. So I want us to remember that this is the true story of Epiphany, and this is what we can remember and hold on to on that day. And with that in mind, I have a few creativity resources to share with you, some that I have right here and some that are online. So first of all, Peter, Paul, and Mary, many years ago, did a song called In the Weaving of Their Fingers, which I feel like is an undervalued holiday song. It is beautiful, and we are sending you the link so you can listen to it live from them, but it's also on the Holiday Celebration album, which celebrates not only Christmas, but Hanukkah and also Epiphany. And then from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, The Gifts of the Magi, which is both a book. There's some beautiful illustrations in here from the museum. No surprise about that. And then they also have gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Also, the stand-up comedian Hannah Gadsby has her take on some of the art around Epiphany, And it is a great watch, and we hope that you will look into that as well. And David is putting that up too. I'll give you a minute to do it. Are you done with that? Mm-hmm. And then a personal family favorite is, there was many years ago a claymation holiday piece called, I do not remember the name of it, but it had its own take on various holiday music and a lot of humor too. And one of our favorites is the version of We Three Kings, done by both the wise men and their camels. And their camels are really awesome. So that's well worth watching. Just a little nerdy piece here. First of all, you will often see nativity scenes with the wise men at the manger. It took them far longer to get to the place where Jesus was than they could have arrived at the manger. So that was Jesus was probably in a house by this time. And also, the only reason we call them We Three Kings is that there were 3 gifts. We actually do not know how many people took that journey across the desert to where Jesus was in Bethlehem. Also, we do not know what countries they came from. So it's a pretty profound story once you stop and think about it. So those are some creativity resources. What are some practices that we could do to help us celebrate the joy and the hope that is Epiphany? And I have just some suggestions here for you, and I'm going to reveal them just like you would open a gift. So first on, we could take on or recommit to a skill or a dream that we have. An epiphany often happens after a time of labor. Maybe you've been working on a math problem that you just can't get, and then suddenly it all comes together. Or you've been trying to hone a skill for a physical sport that you're working on, and you just can't seem to get it, and then it becomes muscle memory. Those are epiphanies. So as the new year is dawning, what is something that you've been hoping for and working toward, or maybe thinking about working toward? This might be the time to give that a try, and in hopes of an epiphany when the time is right. Share blessings and hopes. This is something that we like to do with our thank you board brunch, and we did it just yesterday. And we gave everyone an envelope, had their name on it, and then we took turns sharing blessings or hopes, writing those down or drawing pictures, putting them in the envelopes for them to carry with them into the new year. Because those are gifts that we can give to one another, just as the wise men gave gifts to the child Jesus. And they are very meaningful, and they encourage us in hard times, and we've certainly had plenty of that, and we need that. Values clarification. This was very popular in the 70s and has kind of fallen into disuse, but I think it is a great practice as we're starting the new year and hoping for an epiphany for ourselves. So how does values clarification work? You list 5 things that you find the most important values in your life. And then you take time to order them 1 to 5, 1 being the most important. After you've done that, you sit with it a little bit and think about what takes up most of my thinking energy. How do I spend most of my time? What are my deepest and greatest hopes? And that tells you a little bit more about what your values are, and you might want to then reorder those numbers and see where your most important values are. And think about if that's where you want to be, and if you want to make some changes in the coming year. We can also access art from other cultures. When we learn about diversity, when we learn to think about and value the way other people choose to live their lives, then we become deeper people ourselves. And there are books that Rick Riordan has supported and authors that he has supported from cultures around the globe that are really delightful and easy reads for this. Also visual art and music from other cultures. Not only deepens our souls, but makes us more receptive and appreciative of persons who differ from us. And there's not a time when that's more important than right now. And last, we can sharpen our God-searching eyes. The wise men surely did not expect to find the newborn king in the surroundings in which they found this king. God is everywhere, and we can be opening our eyes and aware in the coming year and expectant to find God in unexpected places. So if you have found today helpful, we hope you will like it on Facebook. You can also rewatch on Facebook, on YouTube, or on our website, www.aspaciousplace.com. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with our last in this series. Let's close with prayer. God, waiting is hard. Give us the strength we need to wait with expectancy and hope for an epiphany in our lives. Amen.